In the spring of 2004, in a small town where everyone knew everyone, two little girls walked into school one morning, laughing as they always did. Their names were Emily Parker and Sarah Collins. They were only 11 years old, but in many ways they were already like sisters. Emily was the quiet dreamer, the girl who carried a notebook everywhere she went, filling its pages with poems and doodles. Sarah was the opposite, bold, playful, and endlessly curious. Together, they balanced each other, their bond so strong that teachers joked they were inseparable. That day, classmates remembered the two of them sitting side by side in the cafeteria, whispering about the sleepover they were planning for the weekend. They were going to watch movies, make popcorn, and stay up late in a blanket fort, as children their age so often did. It was an ordinary day. There was nothing unusual, nothing that hinted at the nightmare about to unfold. When the final bell rang, children spilled out of classrooms, running to their buses or waving goodbye to their teachers. But Emily and Sarah never made it home. Their parents waited. Minutes turned to hours. At first, there was hope that the girls had gone to each other's houses, perhaps losing track of time. Phone calls were made, parents exchanged frantic words, but it quickly became clear neither Emily nor Sarah had been seen since school ended. Panic spread. The police were called before nightfall. Officers arrived at the school, combing the grounds for any trace. And then, behind the gymnasium, they found something that chilled them. Two backpacks sitting side by side. Inside were notebooks, pencils, and small snacks. Items a child would never willingly abandon. The way they were placed, neat, deliberate, made investigators certain. This wasn't an accident. Someone had told the girls to leave them there. As darkness fell, the search began. Flashlights pierced the night as volunteers scoured the woods. Search dogs barked, pulling at their leashes. A helicopter swept the sky, its spotlight tracing the fields. Parents clutched each other's hands, whispering prayers into the cold air. The entire town turned out, desperate to find the girls. But they were gone. The following days were filled with desperate hope. Posters bearing Emily and Sarah's smiling faces were plastered across telephone poles, gas stations, and supermarkets. News crews arrived, capturing images of grieving parents holding back tears as they pleaded for help. Candlelight vigils lit up the nights, neighbors standing shoulder to shoulder, candles flickering against the darkness. Everywhere you looked, there was a question whispered on people's lips. Where are the girls? The police chased leads relentlessly. A truck driver swore he had seen two girls matching their description at a gas station in another state. Officers rushed to investigate, but it turned out to be two sisters traveling with their parents. A motel clerk claimed she had heard muffled crying from a locked room. When police arrived, the room was empty. Desperate families turned to anyone who offered answers, even psychics who claimed to see visions of rivers, lakes, and forests. But every trail went cold. Weeks turned to months. Emily's mother kept her daughter's room exactly as it had been, the bed neatly made, the favorite stuffed animal waiting on the pillow. Sarah's father spent nights driving the back roads, headlights cutting through the darkness, hoping for some clue, some forgotten detail. On birthdays, cakes were baked but never eaten. On Christmas mornings, stockings hung by the fireplace remained empty. The case grew colder with each passing year. By 2006, detectives admitted privately that they had no new evidence. By 2008, even federal agents who had been assigned to help were reassigned elsewhere. Yet the families never stopped searching. Every time the phone rang, their hearts leapt. Every stranger's face made them wonder. Then, in the summer of 2012, fate intervened in a way no one could have imagined. It was one of the driest summers on record. A spark in a field, carried by fierce winds, ignited into a wildfire. Flames consumed acres of farmland, barns collapsed, and black smoke filled the skies. Families were forced to evacuate, clutching what little they could carry. Firefighters battled the blaze for days, finally managing to contain it. When the smoke cleared, what remained was a landscape of ash. Blackened earth stretched for miles. Trees stood as lifeless skeletons. The silence was eerie. As firefighters walked the charred fields, ensuring no embers remained, they stumbled upon something unusual. At the far edge of the field, hidden under debris and scorched earth, lay a square slab of metal. It was flush with the ground, heavy and scorched, nothing like farming equipment. When they cleared the ash away, they realized it was a hatch. Authorities were called immediately. The hatch was pried open, releasing a gust of stale, suffocating air. A ladder descended into darkness. Flashlights cut through the black. What they discovered underground was a secret no one in town had ever suspected. It was a bunker. The walls were concrete, the air damp and suffocating. Against one wall lay a small mattress. In the corner, stacks of empty cans and bottles. And on the walls, faint drawings, childlike sketches of flowers, houses, and two stick figures holding hands. On the dusty floor, two pairs of small shoes sat side by side. A pink shoe with faded glitter, a sneaker with a worn-out sole. Forensic investigators moved carefully, collecting everything. A hairbrush with strands of hair still caught in its teeth was sent to a lab. The results confirmed what many had feared. The hair belonged to Emily and Sarah. The town was stunned. For 8 years, while families searched above ground, the girls had been kept here, hidden beneath their very feet. But where were they now? Investigators traced property records and discovered the land had once belonged to a man who lived on the outskirts of town. Neighbors remembered him as quiet, solitary, and strange. He was often seen hauling supplies into the fields, working late at night. No one ever asked questions. Sometime after the girls vanished, he too disappeared. Records revealed he had died years later in another state, living under a false identity. He was gone before justice could ever find him. For the families, the discovery brought both relief and unbearable grief. They finally had answers. They knew their daughters had not run away. They knew the truth of their final days. Emily's mother wept as investigators placed the small hairbrush in her hands. Sarah's father stood at the edge of the burned field, staring into the open hatch for hours, unable to move. The fire had taken much from the town, but it had also uncovered a secret that would otherwise have remained buried forever. The town never looked at those fields the same way again. Parents told their children the story as a warning. Teachers spoke of it in hushed voices. The memory of Emily and Sarah became part of the community's history, a wound that never truly healed. And though the girls never came home, their story lived on. A story of two best friends who vanished on what should have been an ordinary day. A story of families who never gave up hope. A story of how, even after years of silence, the truth sometimes finds a way to rise from the ashes.